scripturally speaking, women counted for very little. So actually what Paul is doing, he's not being anti-women, but is actually raising both men and women to the same dignity. So, but I think the wealth of the scripture today is on the Eucharist. We've been on this journey about the Eucharist for a while. We conclude today that chapter 6 that I always mention, to me personally, is the most important chapter in all of scripture, John chapter 6. And I was remembering my mother a lot today. I love my mother. My mother passed away May 1st, 2012. She lived 30 years as a widow. My dad died very young. My dad died back in 1982. My mother outlived him for 30 years, so she died in 2012. That's 30 years, almost a little over 30 years since my dad had passed away. And she was a worrier. She worried about everything. My mother was like that. I had the great blessing I could be with both, my mom and dad, especially in their last journey as they were getting ready to go to the Lord. And I have that as a great blessing. But I remember my mom, she was a worrier all her life. I used to tease her that she would worry about not having any worries. Isn't that something? That's how I would tell her. Mom, you worry even about not having a worry. Why am I not worrying? I'm worried about that. And that's the way she was. And actually, she also developed, after my dad died, after my dad passed away, a tremendous fear of flying in airplanes. I had a very hard time to get her on a plane. I remember vividly when I went to Rome to defend my doctoral dissertation. Of course, I wanted Mom to be with me, but we had to fly. She tried to convince me that we should go in a ship to Rome. I said, Mom, we're not going to go in a ship. We have to fly. You fly to Europe. So, and she used to. I remember reading an article that when you lose someone, my dad's illness was very short. So he left us very quickly. He had cancer, so it was not any kind of like tragedy, but you know, the cancer was very, very aggressive, and he died very quickly. So I read years later that when you go through a death like that, people begin to fear sudden separation. And an airplane is a sign of that. You know, when you have a plane, an accident, you don't have an accident on a plane. You have a catastrophe. You know, planes don't have accidents. And I think she was in that frame of mind. So airplanes became a very fearful thing for her. Actually, when she went with me, she did go to Rome to see my defense of the dissertation. I confess, I had to give her a couple of drinks so that she could get in the airplane, and we got her there. And she was so afraid, even on the way back. I still remember, we came through St. Louis, and there was a delay to leave from St. Louis to New Orleans because there was a terrible storm. So she convinced me actually to go and talk to the pilot, because we were inside the plane and we couldn't leave because the storm was passing by, and she wanted me to talk to the pilot to make sure that we were not leaving in any kind of danger. So, you know, the pilot actually came all the way out to the seat where we